Hey everyone, and welcome to Monday. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. We have a big Monday show after a big Sunday showing in the NFL from some of the NFL's best. OBJ had a big game, but his comments before and after, they're big news. Vikings got revenge in an NFC Championship rematch, and the battle for bragging rights in Texas no longer belongs to the Cowboys, at least not this Monday morning. Cowboys at Texans, and we are going to pick this one up in overtime. 3rd and 1, Ezekiel Elliott gets stuffed for no gain. Jason Garrett decides we're going to punt. And that decision would cost him as Deshaun Watson finds DeAndre Hopkins for the 49-yard gain. That play would end up setting up the game winner. Kaimi Fairburn, 36-yard field goal for the Texans, who go on to win this game. Dallas and Houston both with 2-3 records now. Here is the Texans quarterback, Deshaun Watkins, after the win.
He's a playmaker. He's one of the best, if not the best receiver in the NFL, so we rely on him. In those situations, he came up big, and playmakers make plays whenever, we need them. And that was a situation where we needed to make a play, and I threw it up for him to make a play, and he did what he had to do.
A lot of people, put him in the box sometimes and think that he's just a running quarterback, but you see the amazing throw that he made at the end. That was an unbelievable throw to put touch on the ball like that. Just seeing how the defender undercut the pass, great ball.
Obviously, it's frustrating. You lose your 3rd road game straight for the most part. And then, as you said, it's the offense hadn't gotten going on the road, and defense, especially with them giving us all the chance they did, making the big plays down there in the red zone, holding them to field goals, and keeping us in the game, and we weren't doing our part. It's very frustrating.
All right, CC, it's hard for us to fully blame the Cowboys, at least with their game plan coming into the game. We said, you know what the answer is. The answer is to run Ezekiel Elliott, especially when he's got more than what he had the first couple games, which was 16 carries. They gave him the ball 20 times. What happened? What was the key to the Texans beating this Dallas team?
NFL defenses are going to start to pack the box, put a lot of people at the line of scrimmage. This is what the Dallas Cowboys are going to face. Nick and I, we went back and forth last week talking about it, and Nick was like, listen, don't listen to the game plan. Hey, go against your instincts. If they load the box up, still run the ball.
Do it anyway.
That's what they're going to have to do. That's what the Texans did to them last night. So we can't blame the Cowboys as far as the attempts, because Zeke had the 20 rush attempts. But as talking to you, Jenna, we can blame them for not giving him 21. And on 4th down and 1, you got to be able to give Zeke that last carry. On 3rd and 1, they end up stopping them. On 4th and 1, with the game on the line, I think a little more than 4 minutes in the overtime. Like, with these overtimes being 10 minutes, you have to kind of speed up your decision-making. Like, you can't depend on potentially getting the ball back in that situation.
And if you do get the ball back, it's going to have to drive.
You're going to be in worse shape.
Right, you're going to have to drive probably the length of the field with an offense that hasn't moved the ball at all. And so, and I will maybe slightly disagree with both of you on this. He did get 20, but he had back-to-back carries twice the entire game. They never once handed him the ball 3 straight times. The one drive they scored a touchdown on, which started, by the way, on the 16 of the Texans, so it's not really a drive. But that drive, he touched the ball the first 4 plays of it, once through the air, 3 times running it, and they end up with a touchdown. Like, I still don't think they gave him the ball enough, but particularly as you're talking about, on that play that could keep the ball in their hands to potentially go win.
4th down in overtime. And to me, it made me think back at 2016. And, Nick, I said this in 2016 when they had home field advantage. I thought that was the Dallas Cowboys with Dak in his first season, with Tony Romo as a backup, Zeke having an outstanding season, offensive line intact. I thought that was their best opportunity to win a Super Bowl. And I think in 2016 said, well, how is that relevant to last night's game? In 2016, they would have ran Zeke on that 4th down.
Or at least have Dak Prescott, who's a big guy, let him sneak it in.
As a dual-option quarterback, like, you did the Texans a favor by taking Dak and Zeke off the field. You're right, Jenna, a quarterback sneak. We saw other teams doing quarterback sneaks or coaches deciding. The Rams,
they did what I've been begging teams to do for so long. We can win the game right here. We're up 2, rather than wait, trust our defense. Let's try to win the game right here. And by the way, The other aspect that has to go into this is Jason Garrett was watching the same game we were, which was our offense has not moved the ball the whole half. This was, up to that point, the punt, the second best drive they had going since halftime. The Cowboys, after halftime, here were the yards gained on their drives. 16, 2, 15, 13, 45, got them a field goal, 0, 0. Then to overtime, they've already gotten 33 yards. They're actually moving the ball with a chance to take the lead or win in overtime.
And, Nick, one thing that had you upset was Dallas, say their first 15 plays, those are already scripted plays. That was drive number 1, drive number 2. They went up and down the field, making big plays in the running game and in the passing game to get them the 6-0 lead. After that, Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan, to your point, they didn't make many adjustments after that. So their most productive offense was those first 2 series of the game.
And there were just moments in the game, beginning of the drive that spanned from the very end of the third quarter to the beginning of the fourth. First play of the drive, Zeke gets 11. Second play of the drive, he gets 15, gets called back because of a holding call. But he's actually finally getting chunks. Never touches the ball again. On their opening drive, they were moving the football, but they end up having to settle for a field goal. 3rd and 2. They don't run Ezekiel Elliott. Third drive of the game, Zeke goes for 14 on the first play of the drive. Never touches the ball again. Dak hasn't, the number was 200. I'm not going to up it to 230. Dak hadn't thrown for 230 in a half a season's worth of football. You have to know, even yesterday, it's like, oh, what did Dak do? Oh, 208. So you have to know who your quarterback is, who you're playing, and the reason the overtime component matters here is if you go for it on that 4th down and you don't get it, okay, you are more likely to lose. But if you punt it, you're basically playing for a tie. So you're only risking that half game as opposed to trying to go for the win.
All right, let's talk about Zeke for a second. Besides stuffing the box, how were they actually able to contain him? Give us the answer for all future teams going to be playing the Cowboys coming up.
Well, for one, the Texans, you got to give them credit. Their run defense was very, very good. When you have Clowney at the right defensive end, you had J.J. Watt playing the best football we've seen from the former defensive MVP multiple times. Best football he's playing. When you're playing against a one-dimensional Cowboys team, that's all they were doing was playing the run. They were hoping that they were going to pass the ball so that they could tee off on them. Dallas's offensive line also is not a great pass-blocking offensive line, and you don't think they're wide receivers. Who's the threat from a wide receiver standpoint? And back to the sequence for when they decided to punt. On 3rd down, because they throw to Cole Beasley and get 8, 9 yards to make it 3rd and 1. On 3rd and 1, they run an odd formation where they put Zeke at the fullback, put Cole Beasley at the tailback, and they run Zeke on a dive. From creative standpoint, 0.
And what that is, tell me if I'm wrong, C, because I'm watching Dak after the play and I'm watching where Cole Beasley goes. It's like they wanted to trick the Texans into thinking they were running an option with Beasley. Because watch, Beasley runs out like it's an option and Dak goes out like it's an option.
Let me tell you what the Texans were hoping. They were hoping that they pitched it to Cole Beasley. Okay? That's not if you're telling me your whole season's on the line, the game's on the line, you're going to put Dak at fullback. So you take away his creativity, you know he's not going out on a pass. And then Cole Beasley, is he your most explosive player? Put Tavon Austin back there. And then potentially run the option with Dak. That's something that I would like to see on that 4th down call compared to punting.
Here's the only way in my eyes that call is defensible. If you've made the decision we're going for it on 4th. On 3rd, we're going to try to catch them off guard.
Absolutely.
We're going to do something different that we know we won't lose yards on because we're giving it to the damn fullback. We're basically doing a fullback dive, the play most guaranteed to go between 0 and 2 yards. It doesn't go more than that, you're not going to lose yards.
Or if this is the old Dallas Cowboys and they're giving it to Moose Johnson.
Absolutely.
Because they're worried about Troy. They're worried about Emmett at the tailback.
Sure, but if you know you're going for it on 4th down. But what's going to be forgotten in this game is the Cowboys' defense played a marvelous football game. Jalen Smith was flying around like he was at Notre Dame again. Credit to Chris Collinsworth for making it a point of the broadcast because he keyed on it and he was right. This is the fewest points the Texans have scored in regulation in any game all season. the Texans were 1 of 6 in the red zone, including 2 times they were inside the 5-yard line and were held to a total of 3 points. Like, the Cowboys defense played well enough to win. And once again, the offense, Scott Linehan, Jason Garrett, and Dak Prescott deprived them of a chance to win that game.
Which is what Dak Prescott said after the game. Our defense kept us in the game, and we as offense lost it. What was the grade you gave to their creativity?
0.
0.
0.
Yeah, the Russian judge tried to give it a 1, but I snatched that one.
Coming up.
0 points. On a scale of 100.
Another NFC East team having some problems. Has Odell Beckham Jr.'s frustration with Eli and the Giants finally boiled over? That's next on First Things First. Moving on to Odell Beckham Jr. now, who had quite the Sunday both on and off the field. Before the game, he was critical of Eli and the Giants' play calling. In the game, he had his first touchdown of the year, a pass to Saquon Barkley, longest pass play for the Giants all season. Fourth quarter, he got his first touchdown catch. Eli to Odell, pulls the Giants within 3. Less than 2 minutes to go, Saquon scores on a 15-yard catch right there. So strong, just muscles away. And Giants up 1. And this was all but over, save for Graham Gano from 63 yards out at the buzzer.
Wow.
Shocked themselves. Panthers win 33-31. After the game, Giants head coach Pat Shurmur addressed the Odell situation.
Listen, I'm going to answer all the drama questions right now. And I'm going to go back to what I said, all right? I addressed it with Odell. I addressed it with our team. I publicly declared that I didn't agree with his comments. And I asked anybody that was interested, if they wanted clarification, go to Odell, because he's a big man. Now, I'm not going to give the public a pound of flesh on this, right? That would make me small, not strong. And these are the kind of things, in my opinion, when you have the locker room that we have, that will help galvanize them, because the locker room took care of it. And that's all I'm saying on it. Finito.
I'm trying to be a leader. This is a position that I've never been in. I'm trying to grow. I'm learning on the way, so I'm on the fly. But I'm proud of where we went today. We gave it all. We came against adversity, calls here and there, and you know we can never rely on the refs to win the game. But there was calls here and there that were questionable or this and that, and we kept fighting. We kept fighting, and that's all I could ask for.
Nick, Pat Shurmur may not have given the public a pound of flesh. He may have given them a quarter pound or a half a pound right there. He was clearly perturbed about what Odell said before, to the point where it had to be a conversation. He made him talk to the locker room. What was your reaction to everything that happened with Odell yesterday?
Well, my reaction was nothing he said to Josina Anderson was inaccurate. Everything he said was accurate. And Odell would tell you, for people saying he needs to keep this in-house, aside from the Eli comments, those were things that had been kept in-house, about wanting to be more creative, wanting to take more shots on offense, wanting to play with more passion. And it didn't take. He has a relationship with Josina. He's there with Lil Wayne. And he appeared to say things that a lot of people think and don't say out loud. He's asked about Eli Manning. In print, the question is Eli Manning part of the problem? And in print, you read, I don't know. If you watch the interview, he says, I don't know. I know Eli's not going to mobile guy. He's not going to get out of the pocket, and then talks about it. But everything he said's true. And I'm not saying one led to the other, but yesterday the Giants offense looked like it can look. It scored 30 points for the first time in 2.5 years. They didn't lose because of problems on offense. Now, Odell made 2 major errors. He had a drop on 4th down, and he had the more major error, the punt return, where he didn't get out of the way, and it goes off him. The Panthers score on the muffed punt. But he also played his best game with his biggest plays of the season. I don't think we can look at his comments and say they were a distraction to the Giants. They hurt the Giants yesterday. That's not why they lost. And I'm not overly shocked by his comments either.
Well, I would argue that this being his best game. For one, when you're as talented as him, there's a 4th down possession. They throw you the ball. You don't catch it. It's an easy catch, a very, very simple catch. So that's like a turnover. You touching the ball on the punt, where we've actually put you back as a punt returner, and we have other people that can do this, and you have one of the lowest return averages in the NFL, that's a turnover inside the opposition's 5-yard line. So to think that he was part of the winning, no, he wasn't. He was part of them losing that football game also. Nick talked about Odell's comments, they were the truth. Well, don't nobody care about the truth when you're in team sports. When you're sitting at home on the sofa and you're a fan and you got pom-poms, yeah, you can speak the truth. But when you're in team sports, you can't speak the truth. You know the New York Giants organization, with all the little things about Odell that he's been struggling with the last couple of years, the Giants didn't tell us the truth about Odell. You know what they did? They protected the superstar. And that's the same thing that you have to do when you're sitting down. I don't care Lil Wayne. Like, you don't work for Lil Wayne. You don't work with Joe Cena. You work for the New York Football Giants. And it was your opportunity to let people know that everything is okay. I don't care what the truth about Eli is. You can't tell the truth. I don't care what the truth about the Giants is. You can't tell the truth. The reason why, because it does not help the Giants win. I like what Odell said after the game. You know something? I'm learning this. He's learning how to be a leader. And sometimes you make mistakes. And that was a huge mistake. You do not go to your veteran players and expect them to make your job more difficult. And Pat Shurmur said that this was handled in-house. That means probably someone like Snacks Harrison, after seeing the interview in the morning at the hotel, that they went up and talked to Odell and said something to him.
Night before. They addressed it the night before.
And that, or the night before. It was leaked out. It would be on Twitter that this was going to be on there. So typically, guys on the team will say something. So Odell is a huge part of what they're doing. And he had an opportunity to be able to take care of Eli, take care of Pat Shurmur, take care of Dave Gettleman, because this team is not real talented. And take care of the team the same way the team, when they don't say everything that they know about you to be true. It's a partnership, all right? The organization's not going to say anything bad about you, and you're not supposed to be saying anything bad about the organization. It's not a matter of is it true. Of course, there's truth in every organization.
Well, meanwhile, with Odell playing these 5 games, the New York Giants are suddenly 1-4. Why are they in this situation?
Well, up until yesterday, you could say the offense's inability to score to go along with the defense's inability to force turnovers, to get to the quarterback, to stop the opposing offense. Yesterday, to me, it was about the offense did its job aside from a couple poorly, like it seemed for a moment there like Cam and Eli were trading picks. Like Eli had a pick, Cam had a pick, Eli had a pick. But yesterday, the turnovers, 2 by Eli, 1 by Odell, 2 of them led directly to touchdowns, and the defense had opportunities. Now, with that said, Giants should have won this game. Like a 63, this is the second time, if I'm a Giants fan, I don't know this is the second time in a year they have lost on a 60-plus yarder. Remember the game against the Eagles last year? 61-yarder at the gun. And when they say the refs, I'm not blaming the refs. I understand their frustration. It wasn't just that McCaffrey was probably short of the first down that led to the field goal, but it was also a bunch of they get off the field on 3rd down and there's illegal contact or there is a unnecessary roughness penalty on the safety. Like there were some tough penalties, but they played well enough to win. Gano was, what's Gano, 5% likely to make that kick from 63? So I understand some of the frustration there.
Yeah, how can you be frustrated when your defense is that bad, though? I mean, the New York Football Giants, like teams are going up and down the field on them. Since early last season, their defense has not been good. So they're not really talented as we think. They have some names on paper, but who are their star players? Like, who are their front line, the best players they have? They don't have a style from an offensive standpoint because I didn't think they were going to be able to run the ball, even though they went out and got Nate Solder. I told people they're not going to be able to run the ball because he is not a power driver blocker, especially as far as the run game. So we think the New York Football Giants are talented because Odell Beckham's on the team, but when you look at the roster, they're not one of the most talented rosters in the NFL.
Real quick, your point on running the football, it just shows just because you say you're going to do something doesn't mean you can do it. The Giants, they spend the money on Nate Solder. They draft a running back number 2 overall, and they still can't run the football. Like the path to victory of the Giants this year was supposed to be a dominant running attack with big plays to Odell Beckham. Yeah,
it's the hardest thing to do in the NFL is the continuity of the running game. That's why only a few teams can do it and do it well week in and week out.
So Carolina now 3-1 thanks to the win. Thanks in mediocre part to Cam Newton. Time for Put a Grade on It, presented by CarMax. We'll stick with this game. Cam Newton threw for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, and this big block that we showed you earlier. Panthers came away with a 33-31 win. There it is. Nick, put a grade on Cam's game.
Listen, I would give him a C+. However, Jenna Wolfe texted me during the game and said, I'm sold on Cam now. So he finally won Jenna Wolfe over. So to me, he gets an A. Cam Newton gets an A. He won Jenna Wolfe over, so I give him an A, Cris Carter.
It's hard to do.
Man, you guys are weird on this grading system and everything. I know you're supposed to be smart and everything, but, man, you're just giving out lobs and everything. Just giving out. Okay, I can go with that. Jenna's involved in Cam now, but Cam didn't play one of his great games. Cam, it's the intangibles. His team won that last drive doing all the right things. Yeah, I can
Got on the winning bus. He threw that block. He won Jenna over.
His outfit,
his post-game outfit was as good as it's been since the bathrobe.
My text was before the 37 lob turnovers back and forth.
Jenna, don't worry about the timing of it. Okay. You texted me, I'm sold on Cam.
Got to take a break.
I said, all right.
Coming up.
After the block.
Is the Eagles Super Bowl hangover here to stay? That's next on First Things First. Today it's Game 4 of the NLDS as the Dodgers look to close out the Braves. It all starts at 4 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app.
Guys, so the game yesterday, this was such a perfect moment in the game yesterday. So Walker Buehler, the Dodgers pitcher, can't find the strike zone. He walks the pitcher. The Braves are up 1-0. So he walks the pitcher to load the bases. And then he throws what looks like 4 straight balls to Acuna, the best player on the Braves, 20 years old. In a couple years, probably the best player in baseball. Acuna doesn't get the call on the what should have been the 4th ball, way out of the strike zone, calls it a strike. So he's angry. He's got next pitch, grand slam. So Buehler thought he got away with it with 1, ends up giving up a grand slam. Braves get up 5-0. Dodgers tied up. Braves end up winning, I think, get the winning run in the 6th and hold on. So what looked like was going to be a sweep. Now, Braves can force a Game 5. Should be an awesome
Just to make the most
tonight.
appropriate baseball comment ever, when Acuna steps back, when he thought it wasn't going to really be pitched, I saw his chain and I said to myself, that's a chain Nick Wright would like.
No, that's why you get always putting these No, that is not a chain Nick Wright would like,
That's a chain Nick Wright would like. That's
Acuna,
what I said. And then what did he do?
Hit the grand slam.
Grand slam.
Yeah, that's a chain Nick Wright can afford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one right there, he can get 3 of them.
Time for us to go viral. Check out this cool moment from the NBA over the weekend. Warriors played a preseason game in Seattle. Remember, the Seattle Supersonics drafted KD in 2008 before the team moved to OKC. To pay homage, he wore Sonics legend Shawn Kemp's jersey. What'd you think, Nick?
Listen, Seattle deserves a team.
Yes.
Seattle flatly deserves a team. At some point, I believe they will get a team back. What happened, the way Oklahoma City got their team was basically theft. The owners, we're not going to move the team. We're not going to move the team. They're emailing each other, can't wait to move the team.
5 minutes later.
And KD, I was at KD's last game ever as a Sonic in Seattle about a decade ago. And so he didn't want to leave Seattle. He was leading the chant, Save Our Sonics, back as a rookie.
Yeah,
that was a
great
cool moment.
gesture. It was a great gesture. And if Kevin Durant hadn't have said some of the things, it would have been even more hyped up. It was nice by him to put on the Shawn Kemp. Nice little touch.
Very cool.
All right, time now for stories to start your
He need to
morning.
get in the weight room, though.
Man.
I thought he lost some weight since last season.
Antonio Brown and the Steelers offense rolling against the Falcons yesterday. AB finished with 6 catches, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Steelers win big, 41-17. See, how impressive was Pittsburgh's offense yesterday?
Oh, it was impressive. They got back on sync. AB, Ben had a sense of urgency going into the game. Ben was the one leading the charge, but AB played at the level that we have been expecting. So good job by Steelers in their overall passing attack.
And every year, there's at least one team whose hopes and dreams are dashed due to injury. We normally focus on the quarterback injury. We're like, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, it's the Falcons this year. They cannot defend. They didn't need a great defense, but they were going to have an average defense. Lost 2 safeties, lost their middle linebacker. Everyone is going to move the ball on them. This was a good get-right game for Pittsburgh.
Moving on to the Packers and Lions, Mason Crosby, you talk about a tough day, missed 4 field goals and an extra point, left 13 points off the Packers board. Green Bay loses 31-23. Nick, how much of this loss is on Crosby?
As much as can be on a kicker. The only reason he didn't miss all his field goals is because they let him kick one with 2 seconds left when they were down 11. Let's see if you can do this. Yeah. He's one of, I would say, 3 or 4 maximum kickers in the league that could survive this because he's won a Super Bowl with them. You saw Rodgers going over to him and talking to him because he has such history there. 28 kickers would be unemployed this morning after that game yesterday.
And he's part of the storyline, but the Packers were bad the first half. Now, we know the kicker missed the kicks and everything, but this was a team that did not look motivated. Aaron Rodgers looked like he could have been other places out there. So this is... Let's watch what's going on in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers has the press conference last week. The kicker, I don't know what's going on with the kickers this year, but they're
terrible.
This year off.
They're terrible, man.
Moving on to the Broncos and Jets. Rookie Sam Darnold finished with 198 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an INT. Jets get the win 34-16. See, how impressive did Darnold look yesterday?
Oh, very impressive. Him and Robbie Anderson connecting. I got Robbie texting me, oh, man, I'm trying to be patient. I'm working hard. I'm like, this NFL is supposed to be difficult.
And get back out on the field. Stop texting
I got a relationship with him. I was like, yeah, now you're being patient. You got 1 touchdown. 20 minutes later, had to text him again. Robbie got another touchdown. Sam Darnold, I felt like, played his best game. Connecting on the deep throws, attacking the defense down the football field. First time Jets have done that successfully all season.
And that's going to get the headlines. Isaiah Crowell was the best player on the field yesterday.
Man, yes.
You told me he was a 5-star kid out of high school.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Best high school running back.
You saw some real flashes from him yesterday. I think he had 219 yards. He was the best player yesterday.
All right, finally, Rams and Seahawks. Russell Wilson finally got the offense rolling, thrown for 3 touchdowns, but there was no stopping Todd Gurley, who had 3 scores on the ground himself. Jared Goff converts the big 4th and 1 late in the game, and the Rams stay undefeated on the season. Here's Rams head coach Sean McVay after a big win on the road.
It was just one of those games. You knew it was going to be come down to the wire, and just try to give my team some energy, man. Offense, defense. Defense was upset, but just tell them we got their back. We all in this together. It's not going to be a blowout win or whatever. So it was just one of them fun games.
I guess the longer you play the game, the more different you end up looking. Sean McVay looks just like Todd Gurley right now, who had an absolutely
Sean McVay's so
incredible
impressive.
game.
He got dreads and
everything.
He's trying to blend in.
And he's doing a great job. It almost looks like Todd Gurley. What do you think, C? Have the Rams cemented themselves as the best team in the NFL at this point?
They're definitely the best team in the NFL because of their balance, their defense. Came up with big stops when they had to. The thing about the Rams was you're going to have games like this game. But teams that are not good teams, they end up losing this game. A divisional game. Last year, the Rams embarrassed Seattle. So Seattle went into this game with a little more motivation. Seattle played a good football game, played well enough to be able to win. But the Rams, their offensive firepower, even being without 2 of their top receivers, Brandon Cook knocked out of the game. Kupp knocked out of the game. So him using his backup players, you could see how good Jared Goff is in his 3rd year as the starting quarterback there. Sean McVay, though, being aggressive at the end, that's what wins this game. So I don't mind a team struggling. So sometimes you still have to be able to win these games, especially divisional games on the road. We know Seattle's very, very tough at home. So I thought this was a good win for the Rams.
It's a good win for the Rams. The Seahawks were 7.5-point dogs at home. The last time that happened was the Beastquake game. The playoff game against the Saints that they won with Marshawn Lynch before Russell Wilson got there. So we're not used to seeing Seattle as heavy home underdogs. And the Rams, while they didn't cover, they were able to win. This was an expensive game for them, though. I mean, as far as you had Cooks, like you mentioned, he got hit hard. Kupp left with an injury. And you saw little cracks in the defensive armor.
Yes.
Still no Aqib Talib. But the pass defense, while Russell Wilson had a 132 rating, what really concerned me was the run defense. Seattle ran the ball 32 times for 190 yards. 190 yards on the ground. So I think they're the best team in the league. But they are, to me, the gap between them and Kansas City shortened this weekend with what Kansas City did and what the Rams did. If we're talking about the best team in each conference.
Well, I just think the secondary. And Marcus Peters, he guessed a couple of times in this game, got beat deep. We know they're getting Talib back later on in the season, so you have to be able to bake that into the equation. You think they're better on the back end than Kansas City is.
It's like what you guys say. They needed a game like this. They needed a game to be tested, to have to actually challenge themselves, to overcome, to be on the road. It was a good win for them.
Well, it's first game out of the state of California, and we mentioned it earlier. I want to mention it again, though, because he deserves a ton of credit. 4th and 1. with the game on the line. He brings Sean McVay calls his punt team out there. Pete Carroll calls timeout. McVay has a minute to think about it. He's like, you know what? We're only up 2. If we allow a field goal, we lose. Let's just go try to win this game right now. Jared Goff, QB sneak. Seattle never touches the ball again. That's an excellent play call. Even if it doesn't work, it's the right play call. Credit to him.
So the anti-Jason Garrett play call.
Yes, absolutely
yesterday.
right.
All right, moving on to the Vikings and Eagles, also known as my only 4 o'clock plans yesterday. All Minnesota at the start of this one. Kirk Cousins finds Adam Thielen, and the Vikings take a 17-3 halftime lead. Eagles trying to make a comeback. Carson Wentz to Zach Ertz for the touchdown to pull within 2 with a minute left. Eagles with the onside kick, but Thielen makes the recovery because what can't Thielen do? Eagles fall to 2-3 on the season. Vikings get the revenge win. Here is Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins.
I think we found a way. Wasn't perfect, certainly. I was pleased with the fact that we kept trying to answer, and credit to Coach Flip for being aggressive as a play caller, making sure that he gave us opportunities to answer, and then players had to go make plays.
We got to take a real hard look in the mirror. Little mistakes like that, kind of the same thing I really echoed last week after the game. These little mistakes that sometimes can go overlooked are just killing us, and we're playing like we're a young rookie team, and we're not. And so we got to really be hard on ourselves and learn from these mistakes and turn it around fast.
CC, tell me if I'm wrong here. Anytime I hear a player say we have to take a look in the mirror, they're having an identity problem. Like, who are we really? What's our specialty? What is our strength? This is a team that won the Super Bowl that should know exactly what they have coming into this year. How concerned should the defending champion Eagles be after falling to 2-3 now?
I'm concerned. I'm concerned because also what the players and the coaches have been saying in the press conferences. The quarterback lets you know that I need to take a look at myself, because the last time he was the starting quarterback, they were a different football team, because you do have to realize that as much as Philadelphia fans want to applaud their franchise quarterback, he didn't win with them last year. So now, they did that all alone. Like, he was a cheerleader. So now they come back, and all offseason, what do we hear? Oh, man, New England, people don't want to play up there. They don't have fun and everything. We have more fun. How much fun you having now? That's what I want to ask Lane Johnson. How much fun you having? Like, you're not the best right tackle in pro football. You sat right here and said it. Took up all the space and everything. Right here, big fella. You said I'm the best tackle in football. Him, Jason Peters. Jason Peters struggling with injuries. He's in and out the game. So that offensive line that was a dominant force, they're no dominant force. They can't run the ball. They got fumbling problems as far as their running back. They don't have a featured running back. They are missing LeGarrette Blount, that big hammer that they had last year. There's no dependable big plays in the passing game outside of Zach Ertz. So, yes, I'm concerned about who they're going to be, how they're going to move forward. And my biggest concern happens to be on that offensive line.
Who are the Philadelphia Eagles? That's the question right now. We know who they were last year. You kept saying it, and I love it. Their big people are better than your big people.
Yes.
They weren't yesterday. They weren't last week either. They've played 5 games this year. It's not just that they're 2-3. It's that their 2 wins weren't decisive. It's not like okay. Last year they had 7 decisive victories. We know the majority of NFL games come down to the fourth quarter, usually 1-possession games. Last year, 7 times didn't come down to the fourth quarter. Didn't come down to 1 possession. They beat the brakes off teams. Even their wins, Atlanta has a chance to win the game at the end. Indy, you need a drive at the end of the game to beat Indianapolis, and then Indy drives it right back on you with a chance to win. You know why I'm also concerned? I watched how Tennessee moved the ball on you last week.
Yes.
And then I watched Tennessee yesterday.
Same team.
Lose to Buffalo and not score a touchdown.
In Buffalo's defense, they did beat the Vikings also.
Absolutely.
The team that went on.
But I saw Tennessee, the one time this year their offense has had a real pulse was against the Eagles. The Eagles' offensive line gave up 8 tackles in the backfield, whether that's sacks or tackle TFLs. Their defensive line generates 1 sack. Their secondary is highly problematic. The DL, at least the defensive line, I get it. Timmy Jernigan's injured. Haloti Ngata wasn't there. And I think they will be better. Michael Bennett made a big play, got a tough call on him. I understand that part of it. But the secondary, help ain't on the way. And who are you right now as the Philadelphia Eagles?
Something you said that was really interesting. This is a team that I think truly believes they won last year because they were having fun, because they were the anti-Patriots, because they felt they had a new system, a new formula to how they were going to approach football. Well, things have changed now. So if you're Doug Peterson and you're not having fun, what's the message so this thing doesn't get way out of control at this point in this season?
The one thing we have to put respect to, Doug Peterson's learning, too, as a head coach. Like, we can't act as if he's got 10 years experience. We had Coach Mangini on the show. Mangini talked about New England. When did they struggle? After they won their first championship. That next season, right?
Right, they missed the playoffs.
They missed the playoffs. Now, that's real. And he said at that time they didn't know. They didn't know that something happens after the Super Bowl, and they tried to prevent it. They did everything, and even they struggled with their success. This is what we've seen in the NFL. Teams that are successful, everyone except New England, if they win, which is very, very rare, we see them struggle that next year. The schedule's tougher. They play more primetime games, and people are gunning for them. And they don't have the magic that they had last year. The underdog thing, it did work for them. Maybe they need to break out the mask and everything, because this team is totally different than the team we saw host the Lombardi Trophy in Minneapolis.
And what about the Vikings now? Are they back on track after a pretty commanding win yesterday?
They still can't run the ball.
No.
Like, that is yesterday, 23 for 77. I know Dalvin Cook didn't play, but up to this point in the year, he hasn't been playing well anyway. Right now, they are Kirk Cousins, and what was most encouraging for the Vikings yesterday, I thought, was the defense at least somewhat starting to round into form. But let me rephrase. The really most encouraging thing for the Vikings is they won. They had to win. They had one win going into that game. Now Zimmer, he was doing the whole, we were 2-2 this year, 2-2, 2-2. Now he can credibly tell the team, guys,
that's a good win.
We're at 500. We went on the road against the defending Super Bowl champs, and we found not only one, but we're up double digits inside a minute. Like, the Eagles got a touchdown at the end to make it look closer than it was at the end.
They need to keep an eye on Chicago. We saw Green Bay struggling yesterday in Detroit. That struggle will continue. But Chicago, they have a bye, and then they have the AFC East lined up. They got all 4 teams from the AFC East. So are they going to go 3-1 in that? They got New England in there. Are they going to go 3-1 in that? Do we think they're going to split? Nick probably thinks they're going to go 3-1 in that stretch. So you got to keep an eye on Chicago. They can run out and get to 8-9 wins fairly quick.
It's a great point. The next quarter of their season is all AFC East games. The road ones are Miami and Buffalo. The home ones are New England and the Jets. If you start 3-1 and the next quarter you go 3-1 again, now you're at 6-2. And even if Minnesota in that stretch goes even if they go 3-0 the rest to even up at 8 games, they still have a worse record than you. Even if they go 4-0, they have a worse record.
Yeah, it puts the pressure on the Vikings. They'd have to sweep the Bears.
Absolutely.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, don't tell the Rams, but the Chiefs might actually be the best team in the league. That's next on First Things First. Back here, First Things First. We're now joined by former Pro Bowl linebacker, man with big takes, Bart Scott. Hey, Bart, good morning.
What up?
Good
How's
to
it
see you,
going?
Bart.
I thought we broke up. Thanks for having me back.
Just because you
nervous.
two disagree.
Good to see you.
I'm like Champ, you know what I mean? I'm like the
I told Brian to call you. He butt dialed you. Booty call. Let's go, Bart. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about that AFC showdown.
Butt dial and booty call, very different things.
Yeah, it is. Jags and Chiefs.
Tell them, Nick, what I meant.
Patrick Mahomes still good. Rushes in for the early score to go up 7-0, but also quite human. His first interception of the season. He finished with 2 on the day, 22 of 38 for 313 yards. No passing touchdowns, but not to be outdone. Blake Bortles, Bart, throws a doozy as Chris Jones takes it in for the pick 6. Hold on, because Bortles, with 4 interceptions on the day, he's great at interceptions. Chiefs remain undefeated. Bart, we'll start with you. How impressive was the Chiefs' win, despite what some would call a pedestrian game from Pat Mahomes?
I mean, I love it because the same thing make you laugh, make you cry. So, Jalen Ramsey is essentially called out the entire NFL. And then when Hill came out and made his comments, now he's in his feelings. But that's what happens when you're that type of player. It's always somebody that's got their sights on you. And I thought yesterday that, Hill, it's so much team speed. And everybody in the AFC are so flawed. where Kansas City has great offense, bad defense, but their defense showed up, and people don't realize how hard it is to play in Arrowhead. I mean, I think they're the only very few teams that still have a band going live. You smell barbecue and dry rub all over the place, and they play with so much emotion. It's almost like a college atmosphere. So they walked into a buzzsaw. Then Blake Bortles, they need Blake Bortles to play mistake-free football and also be able to, deliver and score in the red zone. And instead, he turned back to Blake Bortles. He turned back into a pumpkin. And that's what Blake Bortles always does. And that's my biggest concern with this Jacksonville Jaguars team is now that, because you're so brash, you're going to get every team's best. But they ran into a buzzsaw. You gave Andy Reid, and I think what they saw was a team speed on a slow surface where they can continue to be fast on a slow grass surface. You can't be fast as a defense because you don't know where all the holes and the potholes are in all the sprinkler systems.
Oh, that's a great point as far as their speed, because given the weather, and Nick had an extensive weather report last week. He did a little Al Roker for us, getting us ready. Let us know it was going to be raining for the most part throughout the game. And you talk about that surface, Kansas City. It's not one of the better surfaces, and typically it would negate some of the speed. But this was almost like a playoff game. We're going to be late in December, January.
Yeah.
Man, it's going to be potholes on the field, lumps of grass.
Painted grass.
And they're still very, very fast. And you need to be able to win when your quarterback's not spectacular. And that's what the Chiefs were able to do yesterday. I was watching the game with Nick and everything. I told Nick, this is great. He threw a second interception. Nick was like, oh. I was like, no, that's great, because the rest of the team is generating confidence. So you start to really – their secondary started playing better. They still rushed the passer, even though they had a couple guys that were not available at the end of the game. D. Ford and another one of their defensive linemen.
They got a guy kicked out. Chris Jones got kicked out of the game. Alan Bailey, I think. They had two players ejected. D. Ford got hurt, and they were still hitting Blake Bortles up the side of his head. Bortles, the pick we didn't show there, not the pick six, but the pick Bortles where they were about to score, where he threw it directly into his own offensive lineman's helmet. It should have been illegal touching by the offensive lineman, but I don't know if I've
hitting his helmet?
I mean, yeah, but it is technically because he's the first guy to touch it. But the Bortles was awful. The Chiefs' defense deserves some of the credit, and Blake Bortles deserves most of the blame there. But here's what is encouraging for the Chiefs and confusing for the Jags. Chiefs 30 carries for $126 against that defense. Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell. I said before the game, I thought Mitchell Schwartz might be able to neutralize Calais Campbell. This back-to-back week, Mitchell Schwartz has dealt with Von Miller and Calais Campbell and acquitted himself quite well. But if you're the Jags and you, like NBA guys at the press conference, they're always looking at the box score. NFL guys don't do this, but I assume in the locker room where at some point they do look at a box score, you got to say, hold up. We ran for 101 on 17 carries? What? And we let Bortles throw the ball 61 times. They were gashing the Chiefs. And I understand the game got away from them. But one of the reasons the game got away from them was because of the Bortles mistakes, the 5 Blake Bortles turnovers. So this was a great win for Kansas City because they're now 3 games up on the Jags. Because they're 2 games and a head-to-head tiebreaker. It was a critical win and a dominating win without Mahomes being good.
And we've seen it. Bart, you've been on a part of some teams that their dominant defense can carry them, carry them to an AFC championship game, can carry them to a Super Bowl. But I haven't seen, in the modern era, a team win a Super Bowl with Blake Bortles, okay? Trent Dilfer, much respect to my friend, is not Blake Bortles.
Game has changed.
All right? Brad Johnson was not Blake Bortles. And with now being so dependent on the passing game, Jacksonville as a franchise, they have made a critical mistake this offseason, not trying to upgrade their quarterback and trying to rely on that defense in this era where they throw the ball too effectively.
I mean, because I always, at the beginning of the season, I said they should have been one of the people in the contention for
Bridgewater?
Yeah, for Bridgewater.
Yes.
I mean, because, even in the offseason, you should have went out for Eli Manning. I thought they had an opportunity to upgrade the position. They bought in, long term because what he did in the playoffs. But the thing is, you can't trust them. And, when you talk about playing in tight games, what I can have my quarterback do is provide, extra possessions, 5 extra possessions for a team that is so explosive and that, you only can ask your defense to hold on for so long. And, you got speed all over the place. Tyreek Hill, you talk about, Travis Kelce, everybody's getting loose. And then what happens is you start getting killed by secondary pieces. So
Sammy Watkins came back.
Absolutely.
Make a
smack Ramsey's mouthpiece out of his mouth. Even though it's never in his mouth, but he got it out out of there. And they you know what? They weren't bullied and they weren't intimidated by the moment because they have extreme confidence. Now you have to put an asterisk around the win because no Leonard Fournette changes that game even more because now you can stay more committed to the game. You'll get more explosive runs. But, you know, whenever you have a running back, you know, that can get to a top speed and he has hamstring problems, those hamstrings linger the entire year, especially. Now, he is better because he's playing in a hot place. He's playing in Jacksonville. But whenever they have to leave in December, November, you know, those hamstrings tend to tighten up. He's going to be on the bike. He's going to have a heating pad on, you know, and that's something to be, you know, something to watch.
For the second straight year, and I said it last year and people laughed, for the second straight year, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a quarterback injury away from being a contender. That's all they need. They're
Who's the backup? Henry's gone, right?
Right now, the backup, we looked it up this morning. Cody Kessler. That ain't great. I understand Cody Kessler ain't great, but I do know this, and I'm not going to go third rail on it. I'm just going to mention it. I do know that they had people campaigning for Colin Kaepernick to be brought in last year.
People had talked to Tom Coughlin.
People
had talked to the head coach.
They had talked to the head coach.
Cap was ready to go to Jacksonville.
And the head coach wasn't opposed to it. And Tom Coughlin put the kibosh on it. Okay. Yep. All right, enjoy Blake Bortles. And then Cody Kessler, evidently. Enjoy that.
Careful what you wish for because now they have high expectations, and eventually they're going to have to cash that lottery ticket in because you think about how much money they have spent. They haven't even addressed Ramsey's contract. They haven't had to address Fournette's contract. So this is their window. They have two or three, maybe 3 more years because you think about $100 million, you know, Calais Campbell. You think about Malik Jackson. You think about
A.J. Bouye.
Yeah, A.J. Bouye. You only can continue to keep that before you have to recirculate the funds.
Didn't give Cap a look. Now they whole offense in a protest. Whole offense sitting there.
I like that, see?
Chiefs now undefeated. Who's the only quarterback left, starting quarterback, that hasn't thrown an interception?
I don't know.
It is
Stump the swamp.
It is Drew Brees, the only one left.
Breezy.
He ain't played yet this week. That ain't fair.
How did the Texans shut down Ezekiel Elliott? That's next up.
Oh, my gosh.
First. Back here with Bart Scott. Bart, there was a battle for bragging rights down to Texas. Cowboys at Texans. Pick this up in overtime, 3rd and 1. Zeke gets stuffed for no gain. Jason Garrett says, hey, we're going to punt. And that decision would cost him as Deshaun Watson finds DeAndre Hopkins for the 49-yard gain.
Pulling like a loaf of bread, CC.
That's it.
Yeah, he got huge hands, though.
Play that sets up the Kaimi Fairburn 36-yard field goal, and the Houston Texans are your winners. Dallas and Houston now both sit at 2 and 3. Here's Deshaun Watson after the win.
He's a playmaker. He's one of the best, if not the best receiver in the NFL. So we rely on him. In those situations, he came up big, and playmakers make plays whenever, you know, we need them. And that was a situation where we needed to make a play, and you know, I threw it up for him to make a play, and he did what he had to do.
A lot of people, you know, put him in the box sometimes and think that he's just a running quarterback, but you see the amazing throw that he made at the end. You know, that was an unbelievable throw to put touch on the ball like that. Just seeing how the defender undercut the pass, you know, great ball.
Obviously, it's frustrating. You lose your 3rd road game straight for the most part. I mean, and then, as you said, it's the offense hadn't gotten going on the road, and defense, especially with them giving us all the chance they did, making the big plays down there in the red zone, holding them to field goals, and keeping us in the game, and we weren't doing our part. It's very frustrating.
Bart, all the talk all week was that the Dallas Cowboys, no matter what the Texans were going to bring them, had to just run the ball. Give the ball to Zeke. He's their only real great player on the team. Let him go out and win or lose the game for you. They sort of did that with 20 carries, but what was the key to the Texans beating the Cowboys Sunday?
See, I know Merciless, Clowney, Watt gets a lot of the attention, but those defensive tackles put on a show. You talk about penetration, you talk about winning the line of scrimmage. You know, Dallas wanted to pull those, you know, front side pullers, backside pullers. If you weren't covered, pull them, get Zeke to the edge. They were getting picked off because of inside penetration. And, you know, hats off to Reeder and Blackston because they put on the show and they were consistent the entire game, and Zeke just couldn't get started. He really couldn't. You can set the edge from inside if you get penetration. And Collins, man, is taking L's on top of L's on top of L's. They're missing Frederick, and I think they're, you know, Zeke, what can you do? You know, when you're losing a point of attack, and now you got to try and wind back and get to the edge and circle the defense.
What I will say is this. What they could have done is that 4th and 1. Up in the second half, They had 7 drives.
Yeah, they could have salvaged.
They generated
a poor offensive night.
91 total yards of offense on 7 drives in the second half, leading up to overtime. In overtime, they actually started to move the ball. 33 yards is what they'd gotten after just that drive on overtime after 91 yards in the second half. I'll tell you, here's an interesting quote. I just pulled it up. And I went to an interesting place for the quote.
What's your code?
DallasCowboys.com. So this was not to just, some random media member. This was to the team's website, the team's reporter. Quote, "We were being outplayed. It's time for risks at that particular time." That quote is from
Scott Linehan.
the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, to the website he owns, DallasCowboys.com, saying the coach that I pay should have gone for it there. So it's not me second-guessing. It's the only person really that matters second-guessing. Because it was 4th and 1 at the Texans' 42. Let's keep in mind, the Panthers in that situation kicked a game-winning field goal from 6 yards further back. Like, the Cowboys were afraid to run the ball on 4th and 1. And I was certain they were going to go for it because of the goofy play they ran on 3rd down.
Bart, they ran an offset eye. They put Zeke at the fullback, ran a dive to him. And you know something? Just to make sure the defense was terrified, we put Cole Beasley. Now, I don't know when the last time Cole Beasley lined up at tailback.
He's just there to cut.
But I know he's not there to do anything but for the defense to concentrate on Zeke. You cannot put Zeke in that. Now, Zach Martin, the right guard, he doesn't get a good block. He doesn't fire off and get the inside linebacker. He's late on that. But on 3rd down, the only thing worse than them not going for it on 4th down was the call and the lack of creativity, which I rated being a 0 on a scale of 1 to 100.
I actually think
it wasn't that bad of a play because what it is remember the old.
Don't you coach your son's little league football team?
Yeah, I did. We took an L yesterday.
Okay, do you run that play, Bart? Tell the truth. You run fullback dive, Bart.
But you know what that is.
Do you run fullback dive? Answer the question, sir.
It's in the repertoire. But let me explain to the viewers really what that play is. That's pretty much a quarterback sneak with the fullback, which is your tailback. And what they do is you try and get the double team, and it's a trap. So you try and get them to run to the bubble. Remember to see how the Seahawks used to run that play, and also the
Bart, you're getting too technical for me.
Well, what's the fullback that Aaron Rodgers used to have? Coon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was his play too. And
him
also
or Moose Johnson.
Yeah. So also that was the dive pitch option type of option.
Right.
So Dak had the option to pull it out of the belly and then have the speed option.
What about
on the
Tavon
outside.
Austin? Put a guy with some speed.
Instead of Cole Beasley.
Yeah. Well, you can't trust him. He hadn't made a play in his life.
Okay, do you agree,
Tell it like
though,
it is, Bart.
that play is going to get you, it's one of 3 outcomes.
Well, that was creative.
0 yards, 1 yard, or 2 yards.
Yeah.
The only way you can justify doing that, to me, is if you've made the decision we're going for it on 4th. So if you run a play that you know you can't lose yards on because you're not going all the way in the backfield, you think maybe we can pick it up. If we don't pick it up, we'll probably pick up half the distance and then go for it.
What about the owner who 2 weeks ago said my quarterback is a cross between Jared Goff and let me throw Cam Newton. So where's that guy at?
So that's Troy Smith, right?
Well,
your boy. No, I love Troy. I love Troy.
Stop.
I love Troy.
The point being, why not let him try to sneak it?
Oh, I got to apologize to a former team. My bad, Troy. I'm just playing, man. I'm just having fun with season.
But
he had a great career in the Canadian League.
This here unbelievable.
Stay focused.
Okay.
Sean McVay, who knows what he's doing. Plus Jared Goff, who is not as physically imposing as Dak. In a game they were winning to run a quarterback sneak. The Dallas Cowboys don't trust Zeke to run a typical run play. We got to trick him. We got to do some goofy, if we put him at fullback. You can say it's a fine play. What I know is this. It's the type of play you run if you think we can't just beat you. We can't win. We got approximately, let me check my notes.
I told you it was taking the mails inside.
$1.2 billion in the offensive line. You got the best running back in football at straight running. We can't just run a regular handoff to him. And then we got to have the option to pitch it to Cole Beasley. And then you punt it on 4th down. What's your best case scenario on punting on 4th down? You get it back with 3 minutes left in overtime, trying to drive the field.
2.5 minutes.
Right. You hadn't done that all game.
When you hadn't done it, their one touchdown drive came after the Nuke fumble when they only had 16 yards to go. Because you mentioned, Bart, the Texans tackles deserve credit.
Yeah.
The Cowboys defense deserves credit.
Yeah.
The Texans
Kept
had the
them in it.
ball. They ran 9 plays inside the 5-yard line, came away with 3 points.
Yeah.
They were in the red zone 6 times. They scored 1 touchdown. The Cowboys defense, Jalen Smith was
right
flying
now,
around. And they can't get to 17 points in regulation.
Yeah.
Not 17.
I can't allow you to get away with the John Kuhn thing. The reason why the John Kuhn thing worked, because didn't nobody think he was going to get it. I mean, the element of surprise was they're not going to give it to him.
Same with the Moose Johnson thing, because you have Emmett
If
there.
they would have had Cole Beasley at fullback and given it to him, I'd have been like, okay. All right, I understand.
I'm surprised.
I get you. Well, that was a great play. They blitzed the gap, and it's always a bubble somewhere. They blitzed the gap and got penetration. So yeah.
But I guess my question is this, real quick, and I'm sorry.
Bart Strong.
If you're on defense, let me ask you this:
It's Merlot. Don't be hating.
As a defensive player, if you see Zeke Elliott lining up at fullback and Cole Beasley at tailback, and you're right before the snap, you got to guess. What are they doing on this play? What are you guessing?
Well, I get it, but the dive pitch is really a short yardage play. We all know what the dive pitch is, when you fake and you pitch it. We've all run that play, and they got too cute. You could say they got too cute, but if it works, then they're geniuses, because what happens is you got wedge blocking. So really you got 2 options. You want to go straight ahead because you know penetration is coming, and that holds that, Cole Beasley being at tailback holds the defensive end from being able to flatten down. But what they didn't account for is they blitzing through the A-gap. Man, I feel this heat coming on. I'm talking heat.
Cole Beasley's mama was surprised he's a tailback. She's like, he's not getting the ball. No.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.